This is Palmer, and welcome to our Ashes Alpha 1 Q&A panel. Thank you very much all for being here tonight. A lot of Hand of Unity members have been testing Ashes of Creation, as you know, but we haven't been allowed to talk about it because of the NDA until now. So we've organised tonight's event because Intrepid Studios have partially lifted the NDA. We're still not allowed to share screenshots or videos, but people who have been testing the game are allowed to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do. And I want to invite everybody here to ask questions, which you do by clicking a little hand sign, putting your hand up. Should be somewhere at the bottom of your Discord screen. And Naris or Santiago or Immortality or Damocles, if I pronounce that right, will do their best to answer them. But first of all, I'm going to ask a few questions myself, and then we'll move on to questions from the community. So please do post questions. There's also a text channel up above called Ashes Q&A. If there's any graphics or anything to post, and that's where they will go. But actually, because the NDA doesn't allow us to post any screenshots, there may not be much there. So we'll see if that gets used. Naris, or in fact, when I say Naris, if anybody else desperately wants to answer these questions, then they can. But I think the first one is for Naris. I guess I should stress also that the game is still in a very early stage, and it's actually in pre-alpha. So the game isn't even out in alpha yet, so it is really basic. But now, do you want to start off by giving us a bit of an overview of what sort of state the game is in at this stage?
Absolutely. So I must admit, going into the pre-alpha, I didn't expect much, given that, it's technically not even alpha 1. It's kind of alpha 0.5. But as it stands, it's a solid game, and that's not me just saying it because I've spent my life savings on it. That is me saying that because it is, it's a solid game. There are 3 classes in currently, which is the mage, the cleric, and the tank. They all feel unique. Combat is a little bit clunky, but there haven't been any passes on the combat yet. There is a fairly large world that you can explore, 20% roughly of the world map. There are bosses, mini-bosses, raid bosses, there's PvP, there's questing, there's the Underrealm. There is quite a bit there to do and also to see, in all honesty. So it's, I think it's shaping up very nicely.
And in the game we tested, there were 3 classes. Do you want to talk a little bit about the classes and how does combat work?
Absolutely. So I played cleric, and mainly only played cleric really, and as a class that has changed quite dramatically. When it started out in the early pre-alpha, I wasn't too keen on it. It didn't feel natural. It didn't have a good flow to it, whereas they've kind of tweaked it twice now, and it's really starting to feel like a nice distinct class. And it is a mixture of skills, which I assume are from the different archetypes, these different secondaries that you can pick. But the skills really look good, they feel good, and it is a fun class to heal on. I don't know if anybody else played the tank or the mage and can offer some additional insight.
Yeah, I played the tank for literally the entire weekend. To be honest, the tank feels, again, it's a melee class, so a lot of the combat was always up close, which really does need some work, but it feels fluent in the way that the skills feel good to use. The class fantasies there, the whole I'm the one that's taking all the aggro and everything hit me. One problem I had with it that there weren't any shields in the game yet. I was spending my life savings on spears, so that was kind of a bit less. But basically for the tank, it was everything that I wanted a really early look of a tank to be. Right, shield skills, throwing your weapons, dragging characters over to you with the chain. It was all very tank-like and really did make you feel like you're the one taking the hit, basically. So, yeah, good stuff for tank.
Cool. Is there anybody on the panel who played a mage?
Yeah, myself. I came a bit late and I was figuring out how the fuck do I raise my hand for the longest time ever, and then I realized I could just join. At the moment, Mage seems to appear to appeal to AoE PvE grind and AoE PvP pulls, as well as mana support. Before test back in December, it was the strongest class by far, where one single skill could one-shot every single person. But at the moment, it's definitely, as a 1v1 class per se, certainly lacking. But it by far outseeds all other classes in terms of its PvP, PvE grinding abilities, just because you're able to grind PvE significantly faster than everyone else.
Cool. Okay. And final question from me for now. In the last test, we had a really good showing from Hand of Unity members. Naris or maybe Santiago, one of the ruling council, might like to answer this. How many people did we have, and can you tell us a bit about what the Hand of Unity community did in the most recent test?
Absolutely. So overall, currently we have just above 60 Alpha 1 testers, and I think we varied roughly from, I think our lowest showing was about 25 people, and we went up to about, I think it was 45 to 50 people. So it's a very good showing. In the test itself, we wanted to experience a bit of everything. So we did some raid bosses, we did some mini bosses, we successfully attacked and raided a caravan, we did questing, we leveled up a node purely on our own at the top of the map away from everybody else. And we basically tried the classes. We tried the different systems. We tried to craft, but that was a little bit buggy at the moment. And we explored, we grouped, and, we had a genuinely good time.
Yeah, we did. And you mentioned the raid bosses. I think we got some world and server first. Is that right?
Yes, from the earlier tests, which I can now talk about, we were the first guild in Ashes of Creation to kill the Red Dragon and also to down the twins, so the two bosses that Stephen has showcased. And both of those kills were basically registered on the Discord at the time. So, so not something I could talk about previously, but we did it. It was done, and I'm pleased that we did it.
Fun times, definitely. Fun
Yeah.
times.
Well, I do have other questions, but I think I've asked enough for now. So please do put your hand up using pressing the little sort of hand icon. And we've got a question here from Hexamore, who, if I've done this right... Hexamore, I've invited you to speak, and I think you have to accept, and then you'll be able to ask your question.
There we go.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, it's at the top of the screen if anyone's going to ask it later. One thing that's worrying me is the feel of combat, because you can't really tell unless you get your hands on it yourself. Is there any game you've played that you want to compare it to? Because even if you don't enjoy World of Warcraft systems, you gotta agree that the combat is smooth. How does it compare to Ashes?
WoW to Ashes,
or Guild Wars or anything like that.
Yeah, Guild Wars probably mostly. Your auto attacks, and in the case of a tank, your auto attacks would literally feel like you're doing your auto attacks in Guild Wars. Some skills like your charge skill and everything, that those really do feel like part of that game. I think more so Guild Wars than WoW, at least for my class. But I don't know how the others feel about that.
Depends on what mode you're in, because there's both the traditional MMO style where you click on enemies and then press 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's also action combat with the 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. Where I felt as the tank kind of felt way better in the action combat mode, where your normal attack basically was on your left mouse button, and you could, for now at least, you can target enemies with the right mouse button, or friendlies, for that sake, if you need to target them, and then use your skills in that way. Where the cleric, which I mainly played, felt better from ranged with the traditional style of the traditional World of Warcraft, a bit more, EverQuest, all these type of games, it felt a bit more that way instead.
I think a good comparison would be Guild Wars 2 and Elder Scrolls Online.
Yes.
That's at least how it felt for me.
Elder Scrolls Online definitely have a feel over it.
I mean, so far it's pretty good, but it does need polish, so.
It needs polishing.
No.
It definitely needs polishing.
No, I mean, personally, I don't see how it's ESO GV2. The combat action mode it's not an action mode per se, just action camera at the moment, where it sticks a crosshair on you. So I wouldn't really necessarily call it action mode just yet. That's most similar to Terra's action combat. And then tap targeting at the moment, it's going very lineage too. I suppose, actually, I take that back. I see what Mortality is saying. But they have the dodge system and the sprint system, which doesn't rely on mana. It's a bit scuffed at the moment because there's actually no indication when your sprint is out of stamina or dodges and cooldown. But in that kind of respect, the movement feels very Guild Wars 2-ish. Because you can't use skills while you jump as well, like Guild Wars 2.
Okay.
I think it's worth just... Oh, sorry, Palmer, I just had one thing. I think it is worth just to say that, this is basically bare bones combat, which has had no real passes to it. And, it's high up on the priority list for Stephen. So it will be getting a complete revamp, maybe 2, maybe 3. So there's still a lot of work to do on it yet. So don't, be too disheartened.
Yeah.
No. But a game lives and dies on its combat, so...
Oh, yeah.
It does, but, at the end of the day, it's a pre-alpha, so there are still,
I'm
solid
aware.
development processes to go through.
And regarding people worrying about combat, I mean, yeah, there's a revamp coming, but unfortunately at the moment, I don't think we will see anything close to final combat. I agree with you, Hex, 100%. Game either lives or dies on the combat, and I think many other people do. But at the moment, the main thing they want to get active is actual server stability, server performance, and then they can work on other classes, etc. I mean, I know a lot of people have been asking, like, oh, where is Fighter, where is Ranger? The whole reason they actually haven't implemented them yet, it's due to the reason that they don't want to implement skills, just that they will have to revamp in the future anyway. So, in fact, you may not even see Ranger, Rogue, and Fighter for Alpha 1. You may potentially do, but the last thing Steven said on it is they will look before. This was before the NDA delay, before the most recent NDA delay. He said they're looking at adding Ranger sometime through the June month test, probably about halfway through. But at the moment, I don't know how likely that's going to happen, to be fair.
I think that's pretty comprehensive. Has that answered the question, Hexamore?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so let's hear from, if I pronounce this correctly, Soul? Anyway, I've invited you to speak, Soul, and you need to click accept, and then you can ask your question, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, here we go, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. By the way, thank you for testing this for us, so we don't have to buy the alpha ourselves. I'm gonna join you for the beta, but yeah, thank you. And I'm having a question about the bosses that you did, especially the world bosses. First is a two-part question basically. So, how did the boss mechanics work, and what did you guys feel like was going to be the difficult part about bosses? Is it going to be competing with others, or is it the boss itself that's just going to wipe the entire raid? And a part of that, how does the Trinity system feel with threat generation? I know it's subject to change, but I just wanted to know your initial feel for it.
Well, we have to also consider the raid interface didn't actually work, right? So, yeah, things like healing wasn't really a thing in the raid fights, or at least healing other people wasn't really a thing, because we didn't actually know how much HP everyone had until we actually clicked on them and saw how much HP they had. And I think the raid mechanics so far were actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of tanking, it's kind of difficult to tell when you have aggro. Well, I mean, if you get hit, then you know. But there's no real way, there's no telltale signs, or like, oh, it just does a little tooltip thingy or whatever that tells you, hey, you have aggro or something like that. And I'm assuming little things will be implemented like that. But yeah, it was especially fun when we were fighting the green dragon and the purple puddles were bugged, so it would literally just stay on the ground. So we would have 1 million puddles on the ground that could kill people, and yeah.
Well, at the end we figured out that the ones who had poisonous gas above them were still active, and those who didn't weren't.
Oh, okay. So it's just visually. Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay, but the mechanics doesn't seem like it's gonna be the modern World of Warcraft mythic raids where it's just stuff happening left, right, and everywhere at the same time, and it seems to be more on the.
the interesting thing was that there was no real rotation in abilities for Dragon.
Okay, so you just basically watch the mechanic happen from cues from the boss, basically.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so,
So it's more reactive. It's more reactive than.
Yeah, way
okay,
more
yeah.
reactive. So, for an example could be the dragon had this orb animation, and after a few seconds, he would shoot out like orbs at all players, and at the end, when they impacted the ground, they did an explosion and left a puddle on the ground. And he would like do it one time. Sometimes he would do it 2 times. Sometimes he would do it 3 times in a row.
We figured out why I did that. It wasn't random at all. All the mechanics are actually triggered by something, even for the twins and everything. And yes, sometimes it can cause buggy behavior, such as them being stuck in a fucking rock or running at you at max free speed and shit. But all of the mechanics, there are, let's just say, there are certain conditions that some of them we know 100% know how to trigger them, and some of them we kind of know what it does, but not 100%, if you know what I mean. For example, the dragon does the bowl mechanic as soon as DPS per second drops a little bit, we found out, actually. Because if DPS is not... Yeah, basically it's to stop people from soloing it, in the sense.
Okay, so the boss reacts to what the raid does as well.
Precisely, it
Okay.
is, but there are enrage mechanics for both bosses. Well, with the 2 bosses, the twins, they start regenerating if you take too long after a certain stage. The dragon just resets HP to 100% at the moment if you don't meet the timer to kill it, which I think is about 5 to 6 minutes. You have to gain another mechanic to stop you kind of soloing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Hang on. Okay, we're gonna move on because we've got some more questions. That's a quite comprehensive set of answers there, I think. But thank you very much. We do have a lot of people asking questions. So the next person is Zeph. Please, if you could accept, what's your question?
Hello.
Not arcade related.
Yeah, I was asking. You were talking about raid. How did it go? What numbers? With who?
Are you talking
And
about?
what was the raid about?
So are you talking about
The-
the caravan?
I have no idea, but like in the beginning of the stage, Naris mentioned the raid.
Trade.
Oh, like actual
But
like
you-
amount of people?
Yeah. It was the amount of people, and then what was the raid for, and how did it go?
So in
The second
terms,
question.
John, can I answer the
Yeah.
first one, Zeph, just so then we can go on to the
No,
next?
that's fine.
Good stuff. So in terms of the raids that we did the twins, and I believe there were about 35 of us there for the twins. 36, there you go. Yeah, I stand corrected. And again, we've done the twins previously, but the boss mechanics and the boss skills were definitely changed around for this test, and Stephen did say that the actual stats were quite scuffed. Went very well. Again, it was, a bit of a learning process. So like Relic was saying, certain conditions, certain trigger reactions. And then we had to hug the boss basically, or he'd suck you in and he'd fling you across the map, which wasn't fun. Went genuinely quite well. We got it down to about between 10 and 15%, but then it seemed to have a love of rocks. So it would then teleport and get itself stuck in rocks so we couldn't hit it, or we kind of get stuck. So that one didn't go quite so well. We also did on the first day, we tried to do, what else did we do on the first day, Santiago? It's all a blur.
We did the third twin, whatever, how we call it. The one at the...
and try the Elder Dragon as well.
and try the other dragon, yes.
Yeah, tried the Elder Dragon as well, but we lacked a bit of DPS on that. I think it was on the second day. We raided a caravan and made friends with an NA guild called Ember, and then we combined forces with Ember, and we cleared the twins. We cleared the ancient forest dragon raid boss, and we cleared it before whom trembles. because basically it was a numbers game and a bit of a DPS check. But I would concretely say that we've conquered most of the content in the game now, to be honest with you. As it stands, there will of course be a lot more content coming. But it's about having the numbers and it's about gearing people up, really. But overall, we were very pleased to be able to take down the caravan, and that was achieved by simply killing the rider, because it's very scuffed at the moment in terms of mechanics and clicking and targeting.
And then the fucking caravan just kept on moving without a rider. I love the bugs. I think.
Go on.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just going to say that I think the fun about raiding in Ashes currently is the fact that when I was tanking one of the bosses, the twins, they would do like this AoE ring and you would have to get out or you would get one shot. That's part of the reason why I had 250 XP percentage deficit. But the thing with that is that in World of Warcraft, it always happens in the same way, or you have deadly boss mods as an add-on, and here you really have to react in the moment to actually not die, because you will die. And there's real, again, the term risk versus reward. So I thought that was really cool to see in these types of raids.
Thank you very much. Zeph, has that answered your question, do you think, more or less?
The question is, did anyone's back break from having to carry Relic?
All the time.
Oh man,
I'm the one who carried the guild. All the guild officers, as we call them, went to Ben, and I stayed up to clear the Dragon Rage. So I'm the one who carried the guild, you motherfucker. Now I can't wait until Alpha 2 comes, and then he starts moaning like, "Oh, Relic, how do I do this? Relic, how do I do that?"
Right. Thank you very much. Scalcion, tell us how to pronounce your name, and please ask your question.
It's Skalson, because I'm Skals. But I was wondering, because you mentioned a few events such as the caravan and that, and I feel like I remember in the past they may have been implementing PvP into that. Is there PvP in the game at the moment, or is that still kind of unknown?
Yeah.
How does that
Way
work?
too much PvP is in the game currently, yeah.
Is the PvP good? Is it...
It's dog shit.
Chaotic?
Dog shit. Okay.
It is dog shit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically a case of, at the moment, the kind of experience debt you get from being killed in PvP is obscene, and genuinely there are no kind of anti-griefing mechanics. So the Ashes devs have been very against repeated murder hoboing in PvP. We've been kind of warned and told off about defending certain areas, such as the Raid Dragon boss, from stopping players kind of running in to try and help or try and kill us. Just literally defending an area as you would do in any kind of PvP VE MMO. But they told us not to do that, and we were warned. So it's not great.
Okay.
Just to expand, mate, you're not going to see good PvP anytime soon. At the moment, whoever lands the first shot wins, because tanks just CC lock you 100-0. Mages don't do enough damage, and clerics can generally out heal themselves. It's don't look at PvP.
Okay.
I mean, until combat revamp. At this moment in time, sieges weren't added yet, but they're gonna add them soon. So hopefully that's something to look forward to. But I imagine it's gonna be whoever has the bigger numbers and the better gear will win. It's not skill based at the moment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Thank you very much indeed. So, Genos, what's your question, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So my question is about dungeons and how they feel. So I'm come from Classic. So my question is, we'll be expecting large, big dungeon like Blackrock Depths, where we spend 2 to 3 hours to clear it, or we expecting a bit the small dungeons and with few bosses. And my second question is about death mechanic. When you die, what happens?
Oh, you can ask Gale that one.
Okay. So dungeons.
Yeah, I mean, I think the prominent one that we really did that I could consider a dungeon was the Red Dragon, which ended up with a stone in our face at the end, which we couldn't enter. But right now, I can't really say anything on the dungeon front, because we could basically run past every single mob without dying. And I'm assuming that's not supposed to be that way.
No.
but that it just didn't really feel too. I mean, it looked amazing, but yeah, they definitely have to do some work on it. I would assume that there's certain dungeons that are easier to do than others, but my testing, the only real quote unquote dungeon that I went into was the Red Dragon, which we would literally walk past it and then ran into a gigantic boulder because they blocked off the boss room for some reason. I think it was something.
I think for you to keep in mind, being a classic player, at the moment there's actually 0 instance dungeons. All dungeons and dungeon raids are open world, so anyone can walk in, you mid-clearing it without a problem. And that will be the case for main game as well for 80% of the dungeons. I mean, the like Immortality said, currently the most expansive raid is the Red Dragon one, which takes 4 minutes to run through on a mount, without aggroing the the mobs, and it will take considerable amount of time to clear. And with the added prospect of PvP being there, that's definitely going to take longer than that. But the smaller dungeons are at the moment, unfortunately, not really worth it. They don't have unique mobs, it's just mobs with higher HP, and they hit a little bit harder, so it's nothing exciting, unfortunately.
It's very similar to Age of Conan, if anybody's ever played that, in terms of the Tortage Underhalls, White Sands, and places like that.
Yeah. The aggro, the mob aggro doesn't seem to work properly, but the dungeons are quite sort of they're not in a straight line, so it's not going to be like a World of Warcraft dungeon. Even when they're working properly, I think you're going to have sort of different choices to go, and it probably will be possible to avoid some mobs, I suspect, even when it's working properly, because it's not quite designed in the way that like an Elder Scrolls or World of Warcraft instance is designed. It's designed to be open world, so it's a slightly different type of thing.
Yeah, the dungeon itself will probably be something similar layout as Blackrock Depths, where you have 7 ways to basically get to the same point.
So the other question was about the death penalty.
Oh yeah, what happens when you die? Well, you drop a portion of your loot that people can pick up, and you respawn technically at a graveyard, which you could see as a sort of spirit healer-esque area. You just spawn there. You don't have to walk back to your corpse. And I got spawn trapped there by people PKing, so there was no anti-grief mechanic in that front. I died because I picked up a flower, I respawned, and I got killed 4 times. So, yeah, death isn't really that expensive.
As well, there will be an experience penalty for dying as well, but right now it's scuffed, so we don't know exactly how much it's supposed to be actually. So,
felt that one.
And just to add something with the death penalty, on one of the raids when we were learning the mechanics in dying, Garlief actually did run round and grab all of our loot and live like a king for the rest of the awful weekend, which was quite funny.
Yeah.
Fucking Cook had like 600 gold or whatever. He was so smart.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much. We need more questions. I'd love to have some more questions. Do put your hand up. But we're going to have a return. So, did that answer your questions, Genos? Do you feel that you've got answers to your questions there?
Yeah, I think like dungeon at the moment is very early to talk about, because as you said, I don't think it's nearly finished, and I don't think they will work on it soon. Like not before the days to the beta.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much. There's other things that take precedent right now, and I think it's just on the developer side to create content for it and to actually map out the world. But yeah, and in the end, it's like it's not like a Dead Mines. You don't know that it's there, so you actually have to go in there and check it out and see what's there. So it's not a predefined path.
So we do want more questions, but we're going to have a repeat, a second appearance from Zeph. If he accepts.
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the question is about optimization. How would you say the optimization is? I'm talking about like when you move in, for example, into a bunch of trees, do you get FPS drops or anything? What about crashes and server issues and lag?
Smooth.
Yeah, I mean, I feel qualified to field this one. I mean, I don't know if is anyone's PC older than 7 years?
Yep.
So much money spent on Ashes.
Yeah. Okay. So to that end, yeah, I have an i4 770K, 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, GTX 1070, solid state drive. I ran the game on, I think it was high settings, and really didn't experience any FPS drop. It ran at a consistent 40 to 60, even in like raid battles with lots of effects. So it's very, very smooth.
Yeah. I think it's just in certain areas, like we were in trying to level up our very own node, and there was this area in a ruin which had a certain kind of fog, which kind of messed with your FPS. But those types of things are just optimization passes that they have to do. But yeah, mostly fucking smooth, man. Ultra settings all the way, like good stuff.
Yeah, same. It also had a surprising amount of ground clutter, and it didn't lag at all.
Yeah.
And the game looks pretty, doesn't it? I mean, I think people mentioned the dungeons already. The dungeons actually look really nice, and they have lots of lighting effects.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If Alpha gets through that, then it's a success.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of the thing.
There's a lot of small effects already, which could clutter up your FPS and all the drops, but we haven't really felt anything like that. Only the occasional maybe lag spikes or, as Nara says, clutters somewhere, but smooth. Really, really fucking smooth.
The rubber banding was an issue during the early part of the test, but give Intrepid their due, they stamped the majority of it out, and it was rectified within 24 hours.
That was mainly when there was basically everyone was in the starting area. That was the rubber banding.
Yeah, we got out of there quick.
I tried to run up a road/cliff side you needed to go up, and I kept rubber banding down for like 3 minutes at the worst point of the test. Like I tried 3 minutes to get up just a small ledge.
Yeah, it's just generic stuff that they have to iron out.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. Yeah. So
I have another question.
Go on, mate. Go on, mate.
You these guys were talking about the loot in the chat. Can anyone take your loot even if you kill a boss?
Well, if you die, you lose like half of the materials in your bag, right?
Depends on what he means by take loot, like from the enemy mobs or players.
From the mobs and players.
Mobs, you get the loot whoever gets the biggest damage, and XP works. Say you do 40% of damage, you get 40% of XP, but loot goes to whoever killed the mob. And if it's in a party, it depends if it's free for roll, rotate winner, whatever. From dead bodies at the moment, anyone can just take it. But at the moment, you only drop. On normal death, you drop 50% of your garrables, so that's your essences, which is sulfur, gold, and resources. But if you are corrupted, you drop 100% of it, but no gear at the moment. You don't drop gear at the moment, no matter how red you are.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So the next questioner is Hexamore, please.
Yeah, you were talking about majority of dungeons being open to everyone, basically.
Yeah.
With server sizes in mind, do you think they're going to be clusterfucks, or they're going to be like, oh, we raid on Wednesdays and that'll be fine because the other guys can raid on Thursdays? Or is that something like, oh, everybody's going to raid on Wednesdays and it's just going to be chaos?
So to just expand on that, so when they say when Relic said 80-20, it's my assumption that 20% will consist of more complex raids. So I imagine the more complex raids, which will require, a whole raid night, they will be instanced. Whereas like bosses, like single bosses, which are, raid orientated, those will be open world.
Oh, so it's more like there are a lot of world bosses, but there are raids that will give good loot as well.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. There will be. Stephen said in the past. I don't know if this has changed, but the more complex encounters, they will be, in raid instances, and they will make up a proportion of that remaining 20%.
Yeah, because otherwise, it just sounds like it's the perfect recipe for a clusterfuck. So.
Yeah, I think right now it's also the fact that when we were raiding the bosses, we didn't really encounter any other guilds trying to do them necessarily. But it's also that this part of the map, it's I think yesterday I saw Steven said it was 17% of the entire world. Like that's, you might run into people obviously, but
How many were on the beta test? Alpha test. Do they have any numbers like that?
I think they said like, what was it, 500-600?
During the peak, there's a server called Linux. It had 1,000 people. During our peak, we had 800 people on our server.
Yeah.
Usually, it was often a lot less so.
And do we have a number on the server sizes, how big they will be?
Yes, 10,000 consecutive, 50,000 registered.
Okay, so if you use 20% of the map and you had 1,000, so that's 5,000 people.
I think something to keep in mind that as an alpha test, we use teleporters to get around. There will be boats, there will be naval content, there will be, it will take travel time. So I don't really think it's, reasonable to try and estimate how many people are going to be in an area at this point, because, our island is very squished together and we can insta-teleport. So it's going to be very different on release.
I think just going back to the issue you raised about clusterfucks. I mean, my understanding from listening to the dev streams and everything is that to some extent they want to have a bit of a clusterfuck sometimes in some of the dungeons. That's a deliberate sort of design feature that you'd go in there and there'd be a different group in there and maybe you'd decide to fight them or something. So getting a bit of conflict in those dungeons, possibly not for the big complex raids as now is said, but in some of the dungeons at least, they're actually trying to encourage that.
Oh yeah, I get it. I just don't want it to be the main way you raid, or even the majority, because I'm just worried about clusterfucks like that.
It probably will be. It will be.
Yeah.
Steven said himself, if that's the challenge, Not only, at the moment, right? The bosses have mechanics, but once you get past them, in the end of it, you get past them. They are challenging, and it does take time, but in the end of it, it's boring. With, with other people being there and being able to contest it, that's definitely an option. And I don't think, how it, like Steven already mentioned, those... Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's my missus. What I was saying is, those bosses won't be up 24/7. They'll be up at a certain time, and they will also despawn at a certain time. So,
yeah, if is there anyone here that is playing Classic?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Compared it to Asurgos or Kazakh, how is it?
That is probably going to be very much the same of the Kazakhs, definitely. Where you will have the group that's trying to fight it, and then you will probably also have a group that's trying to defend the people actually fighting the boss from other people trying to come in and barge in on you. That is probably the main way you're going to be doing those.
Okay.
Right. Next question is from Trolf. There we go. You'll let me
Unmute.
You need to unmute, or can someone else unmute you? No, I think you need to unmute yourself, Trolf.
Might be something due to you.
Here we go.
Unmute.
There we go.
Oh yeah, hello. My question is how big does the world feel? Because they said it's about 20% of the complete map, but how big does it actually feel?
Fucking huge. Holy shit, man. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. They had teleporters set up for us to go in between the basically the ocean areas, but we had to swim through that shit a couple times, and having to walk through most of it at the beginning, it was expensive. But even with a mount, it took such a long time to get somewhere. Yeah, it's huge.
It took a significant time actually to get from where you want to go to.
Just to let you know, but I timed it from the very southwestern corner to the southeastern corner, going pretty much on land as much as you can. It took me 23 minutes by mount. So,
okay, that's actually nice.
I think the best example is the cave, right?
Yeah.
It's it appears as a simple cave, but after you enter, it just
Oh,
ginormous
massive
inside, right?
cave.
I mean,
Yep.
you have ads on top of the mountain. You have the ads inside of the mountain. It looks amazing. It's just very crazy.
I think it's also the fact that they play around with the environment. At least in that cave, you had a quest where you had to pick up certain flowers, but it wouldn't just be like gather 5 flowers. No, it would literally be gather 5 specific flowers, but they would be on ledges and stuff like that, where you had to actually use your jump or certain skills or whatever. It was. Yeah, even that cave, super expensive.
Don't click more than 5 flowers because you die if you do.
Dude, I clicked that so hard. I was screaming at my screen. I was screaming at my screen.
God damn it.
And this cave, it wasn't a dungeon. It was one of those places where you have a quest, and the quest says, go in the cave and do something. And you think it's going to be, like a cave in the average MMO is fairly small, but this was, as I've said, this was massive.
Yeah, and these are not like copy-paste caves like they have in like Elwyn Forest, for example. You have the Jangle Load Mine or whatever. Those are all basically the same, slightly different layouts. But these caves are huge. And no mini-map, right? There's no mini-map inside. You have no idea where to go. So you better go explore.
Yeah, so Troll, has that answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, if there are any final questions, do put your hand up. Somebody's being a little bit cheeky, but we can't have too many questions from Zeph, I guess. Is this a real question, or are you just going to abuse Relic?
I was going to ask, how did Santiago manage to log in given that he can't spell?
Wow.
I think we've had a pretty good session, and there aren't any more questions being asked. But for anybody on the panel, are there any issues that haven't come up that you think that you'd like to tell people about, that you want to talk about? No.
I mean, most of it, right, is going to be basically revealed in a month and a half from now. So right now, it's just a matter of we can, if there's any more spot tests, right, we can talk about those, right? As well.
Yeah.
They put them under a new NDA.
I assume so. I'm surprised nobody's asked about nodes. We did succeed in, and other guilds as well succeeded in leveling up nodes. We saw nodes change from wasteland to little encampments to, I don't know, it's not our one, to proper towns. That was quite nice. And there was some basic crafting in the game. I managed to gather materials and make myself a sword. Although it's a bit buggy, you couldn't actually equip the sword, but you could make the sword. And there's a crafting system in the game which is very, very basic, very rudimentary, but it does work.
My girlfriend was also, I think, probably one of the only ones to own an in-node house, because she looked at one of the signs and it was 0 gold. She bought the house. It was the only one in the Winstead node which was 0 gold, because the rest was all 1,500. But to answer your questions, you could not do anything with the house yet. You could open and close doors in it, which was kind of funny because you could, because we were exploring the house, checking it out from the inside, had some furniture in it. But I, as a player that doesn't own the house, I can't open or close the doors. So she closed the doors on me, and I was stuck inside. So if she hadn't let me out, I would have literally had to remake my character because I couldn't get out.
Or Control T.
Or oh yeah, fuck, I forgot about Control T. Yeah, Control T spawned you back at a thing. So fuck.
I mean, one thing I just wanted to say personally, I've been playing Ashes for a long time now. Must admit there was a point when I kind of, was a little bit worried that it was, not going to be money well spent. But for me, every time I play Ash as a creation, every time I test it, I genuinely get that feeling that I got from, older MMORPGs. And, I can't explain exactly why that is. It just feels good to play it. And it feels, like a solid game with a clear vision. And I think, it's going to take time, don't get me wrong. It's It's not the 5k relic, but it might be a little bit. But yeah, it seems the team are really invested in it. It has high production quality, and I think it's going to be a big game in a few years' time, and we're going to be hitting it in a big way. I mean, I'm personally taking 4 months off of work if possible.
You mean if possible, and just threaten your boss? Be like, okay, I've been working for years. Can you give me this time off?
That's great. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for joining.
One last thing. This is for everyone here. Just a warning, right? Everyone knows how you can't expand your guild slots until your guild levels up. Yeah, they're making guilds very hard to level. So if you want to be at the start, earn your fucking keep. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, good point. Because it was a case of guilds at the moment they're capped at 30, and even when people leveled their guilds to level 2, which required 140k of XP, it's still stuck at 30. So I think they are going to be, like Relic said, they will be quite difficult to create more and more slots in a guild. Was it 170? They go even higher. So yeah. So it's and one quick thing just to mention from Bobby. Bob is basically, I think, tired from work at the moment, but he has been doing a lot of work on our Ashes master spreadsheet, and Ray has also been working on the Ashes map, so both of those are developing very nicely. At the moment, you level up guilds by doing quests and killing mobs, as far as I know.
What did the animation on the map that we had in the... I'm pretty sure I can talk about that now. In the NDA channel, we had a map which was like animated with our plans. Who did the animation for that? Assuming somebody would know.
No, it's a little thing with the arrows, I think he's talking about.
Yeah. The one we were like... whatever. It's not that important.
Yeah.
So what was that with the arrows?
Oh, Ember made that animated map. Did he?
Yeah.
Emberstone did that. He's a talented lad.
Sure is.
Well, that's great. I think we've come to a natural stop. Thank you very much indeed to everybody on the panel for being here. Hopefully, at some point in the not too distant future, we'll be able to sort of stream and show everybody the game, but we can't do that yet. Thank you very much indeed to our panel, and thank you very much indeed to everybody who asked a question and everybody in the audience who turned up. And see you soon.
Yeah, go swipe, everyone.
Thanks for hosting, Palmer. Pleasure. See you all in the next test, folks. Get swiping.